Imagine strolling through an Italian piazza, taking in the culture and cuisine of China and Thailand. The character of a Venice sidewalk. Sipping latte in a street cafe in Tuscany. Relishing Italian tapas and pizza in Rome. Sampling classic wines in a vintage cellar. Dining like royalty on the Orient Express. Or having a night out in Vegas. Our journey begins 50 years ago, when the Bankstown District Cricket Association got together with a small group of sports-minded people from the various sporting codes in Bankstown with a view to form an umbrella club to ensure that all sports, major or minor, had a fair chance of getting attention and financial support.
Well, I've been involved from the very start. All the secretaries of the various sporting bodies in Bankstown sent a letter if we were interested in coming to a meeting back in 1958, talk about forming a sporting club. And I happen to be the secretary of the badminton club. I'll be a bit slow to play that today, but so I came to the meeting and we formed a committee.
They held their first meeting on April 23rd, 1958. As reported in the newspaper of the day, from this small beginning, provided support is forthcoming through the issue of debentures and membership fees, this club should grow to rival any such venture anywhere and serve to establish Bankstown, as our sportsmen and women are doing already, as a growing force in all fields of sport and second to none in potential. As a result, the club was registered on the 7th of August 1958.
One of the members spotted a venue that was for sale, and it was a Church of the Latter-day Saints. It was a weatherboard and five-way building, one large room with some smaller rooms out the back and down the side of the building.
So we went and saw the Church of Latter-day Saints, and they, what do you want? Yeah, we want to put a licensed club there. Oh, well, we really don't want to know what you got to do there, but we'll sell it to you. Well, we haven't got the money. They let us pay it off.
Raked up some money through membership, and we issued $20 debentures, gave 8% on them. We raised enough money for deposit. We struggled to pay it off, but I must say the church was very good to us in that respect, that they didn't hurry us for the payment.
They were so nice to us, you know. But getting back to the money, where do we put the money? Under their font. On the stage they had a font with their little altar. We used to hide the money in there. So burglars would never think of looking at there with the money, would they?
During that time we held meetings, and of course it was a consecrated church, and you couldn't drink or smoke in it, and we used to adjourn the meetings, and those days everybody smoked, and of course we all like to drink. So we used to go out in the backyard and have a smoke, and we had an esky out there with some beer in it, and then we'd continue the meeting. Yes, Bankstown was more or less a large country town, and of course it had just started to grow down here, because the original Bankstown, of course, was up the top of Chapel Road. There were only small shops, no shopping centre or anything like that. I suppose we were fortunate to buy property so close to the station.
It was a hall. And when you see the early photographs, you see some very old cars parked around, like 58 Morris Minors and Vauxhalls. When we purchased number 8 Greenfield Parade, there was a font. That was used as our first refrigerator, really, because you used to be able to buy big blocks of ice, and we used to chip it up with a little ice pick, and we used to put the long necks in there.
We did go to the licensing court about, I think, the third time we got the licence.
Our members could finally raise their glasses to toast the formation of a new club when the licence was granted on June the 11th, 1959.
And the night that we opened, we had a temporary bar from the Businessmen's Club up here, and we borrowed 2 kegs from the RSL. But news certainly spread, and by the time we were open about 2 or 3 hours, the place was nearly full. And so the Bush Telegraph really worked, and A majority of those 220 turned up. As a matter of fact, our secretary manager, John Mackay, and the other day was getting the list out, and he said if there's 30, they'd be lucky. Because it's 50 years ago after all. Everybody had to be over 70 today because it was 21 to join. I knew all the 220, but I certainly don't know 40,000.
Emil McDonald was the first appointed badge number 1, and he was the secretary manager for many, many years. And he saw the club through many things. He was a very earnest man, a very honest man.
In those 50 years, the club's only had 2 secretary managers, which is most unusual in Emil McDonald and the present one, John Mackay.
In 1975, they employed another guy as the manager, leaving Emil as secretary. In 1976, they made me the acting manager. In 1977, they made me the manager. When Emil retired in 1980, they made the job 1 again as secretary manager. So, yeah, there's only ever been 2.
Sadly, Emil McDonald passed away in 1991. His contribution in those formative years will be long remembered, and a new office block is to be named in his honour.
Even before I was a member, I was coming as a visitor every 2 or 3 times a week, and I got involved in what they termed the social committee. There were a couple of blokes who were interested in the artists who were going to go on, and that was controlled by a director on the board. And then I got on the board myself and was very active and interested in the type of artists. And we'd have artists on in those days for money, say £2, £3, right? And then of course I got into the bigger one, the ones you could afford. But this was starting in Little Old Church. We didn't have anything like that then. The only entertainment we had then really was a euchre night we'd have once a week. And it was very well run. Once again, it was the discipline in the club that kept everything nice and clean, no fights, no brawls. Anyone who wanted to play up at all, they weren't welcome at all, they were just barred. And that was the result of good directorship from the board of directors, who were vitally interested in keeping the club going.
The thing I remember most, it was free. We never charged anything. An act would come in that cost $1,000. If you got 1,000 people there spending their money, you didn't need to charge.
And of course, the licensing police, they'd come in and they'd look around and, now you sure that bloke's over 21? And they'd call him over and ask him for his identification. And then he'd say, I'm not a member. Well, how are you in here? I was signed in by my mate. Where's he? He's out there playing snooker.
From memory, I would say a middy was about 10pence, and a schooner, I think, was 1 and 9pence, which should have been, twice as much, really. But that would have been about the price we were paying then.
And of course, after 4 o'clock, when the secretary went home, the phone was plugged into the bar. So it'd ring about 6 o'clock and, hello, Joe Smith there. Just a minute, I'll go and see. And Joe Smith would be sitting right as close as you and I are. Sometimes if they didn't cover the phone up, she'd hear the voice. A lot of them had never been members of a club before. To get a drink on Sunday without having to travel 30 miles was, in those days, was great. The club didn't open on Christmas Day or Good Friday in those days. And every Good Friday we'd have a working bee. The phone would ring, the club's open. Yeah, it's open if you bring a paintbrush.
There's only one time we ever had any little bit of disruption really in the club. At that time, there were over the period, there was a lot of strikes through the liquor union on bar staff. At the drop of a hat, they would go on strike for this or that, and it made life very difficult for directors to try and maintain a flow of beer. And one time they cut off our beer supply, right? And it was only because a few good clubs around the area started smuggling in kegs of beer for us that we kept trading like we were able to sell beer. But then the breweries found out about this, so they threatened the other clubs, right? So they got into strike. But we got over that. We bought a beer from Melbourne called Courage. I don't know whether you've ever heard of it. It had a bite like a kangaroo dog. I've never seen so many drunks in 5 minutes. And fellas who were members of the club then, they still talk about it. They say it was the cheapest night they ever had. 2 schooners, they were drunk. It was the most potent drop of beer I've ever heard of. Never tasted. Courage beer from Melbourne. That brought everybody down to fill. So we decided, well, we'd conform to the law, pay everybody out what they wanted, and we'll go back getting Sydney beer.
We had a safe in the office bolted to the floor, the wooden floor. But the building must have been about 5 foot off the ground. And someone got in one night and sawed around the whole safe and dropped it out the bottom of the club. It was found out in the bush out here in a place called Picnic Point with the door blown off. Of course, it had some papers in, the club papers, but no money, of course.
And in those days, the club was managed mainly by the board of directors, all honorary.
The directors of the day They used to take it in turns and serve the beer and look after the pokies and all sorts of things like that.
Complete their day's work at 4 o'clock or whatever and come in and operate the club.
We had to do duty office nights and
By helping to serve beer, helping to clean up glasses, clear poker machines at the end of the day, count the money.
they were all over 60 and I was in my 20s and I got a bit of stick from the members, of course, who were all younger, my age mainly, and they all wanted free drinks when I was on duty.
We count the money, and the worst thing about that counting money is you ever try to count, £10 in sixpences, which is 5 cents now, and like all 5 cent machines, piles and piles of these, and you'd fight because you wanted to do the 2 bob ones because they were easy to count, So everyone would try to be a little smart and give the new bloke, you got to do the 5 cents, mate.
And eventually we got enough money to put an extension on the club, and from there on it grew and what you see today.
Every aspect of the club has changed for the mood of the members at the time. When we left from the old church, which was just almost like when you were first married, living in a little 5-row house, that was it. We're just all confined nearly in one room, 1.5 rooms, and everyone knew them. 100 people, all so good mates, right?
There were 10 poker machines, and very male dominated. There were only male members. Even the secretary manager secretary, she had to more or less be out of the club by 4 o'clock before the blokes got in to have a drink.
Then we got a little bit large and decided to extend.
1961 called for another club celebration. Putting up a new sign for stage 1 of our development brought the membership together for another toast to growth.
And our first extension was outside, and the building's still here, we still use it, a 2-storey cream building. And the big thing, we had a billiard room there. We had a billiard table, and these fellas were all mad billiard players, right? So then we had an avenue to play something extra besides darts and indoor bowls. And it was fun to remember when let women come in as visitors. And this is an interesting law. I don't think it would pass now. You think about it. We let ladies come in, even become members, but they only signed females in. They were not allowed to sign males in. But men could bring any ladies in, and the lady they could bring in first didn't have to be signed in.
Some of them thought, well, we better have some entertainment if we have a dance night of a Saturday night.
We had a little floor upstairs where we could dance, have a Saturday night dance and have an artist in. So we were coming of great age.
In those days it was 21 to enter the club. A little bit difficult asking a young lady in those days if she was over 21. We were limited in the number of members we could take.
I originally applied in 1961, but they only had a membership of 250. In 1962, they took in another 250.
We had a very long waiting list. At one stage, there was about 500 or 600 on the waiting list.
I was still not able to get a membership until 1963 when they took another 250 in to take it up to 750, and my original badge number, which I still have, is number 620.
We had individual interviews. We'd all sit around a board table. There might be, say, there was a board and then 12 men. We might have, say, 6 directors on each night.
I think I was interviewed by Jim Logan, and Jim asked me why did I want to be a member of the sports club. I said, because I'm a sporting man. I played rugby league and tennis and squash and basketball and table tennis and snooker.
Basically, they'd be interviewed on the face of it to find out if they really wanted to be a member of the club or they were just there to get drunk or whatever. And most of them just said, well, they had a family. We were great ones into sport and the junior sport. Their kids wanted to play sport and they felt if their parents were members, they would say, oh, this is good. And we even prophesied even then to look forward and say, these people are coming in now, your children one day will be members of this club. And that has been really fulfilled.
We were quite proud of our clubhouse then. We were quite sad to see our first premises demolished, although today we could easily mistake it for a milking shed. But as the club's finances improved, planning began in 1963 for a second stage. The new premises were opened in 1965 by the Honourable R.J. Kelly. With better facilities, membership increased and we never looked back.
When you used to come into the old club and you'd walk in, there was a little kitchen thing, and we had a girl called Therese Mullane, and she was one of the first 3 or 4 employees here. This is before I got on the board.
I started in 1967 in this very small bistro, and I started at 12 o'clock, and when the shutter went up, all these people were there. It was really daunting, and I thought, I can't cope with this, but I had to. There was only sandwiches and hamburgers and perhaps one special.
And she used to sell curry prawns and rice, bowls of curry prawns and rice and chips.
Specials were only 50 cents. The hamburgers and steak sandwiches, I think, 15 cents. And I think you got your bread roll with your special for nothing. But, yeah, it was very daunting. And when I'd finished, I thought, I can't do this. But anyway, I was back the next day.
But it was all, not blue singlet, but mainly working class, yeah.
The ground floor was what we used to call a men's lounge. Again, that's history, consigned to history.
The ladies couldn't go in the members' bar because it was an all-men's club, so we were one of the lucky ones that could go in because that was the only entrance into the bistro. We had a bay in the middle of the bistro, and the fryers and the grills were beside the change box, and that used to melt all the chocolates.
There was a mixed lounge inside with a small dance floor auditorium type setup. There was a kiosk that used to sell everything from cigarettes to lottery tickets to poker machine change. On the other side of that, there was a tiny little bistro. Used to have two women in there pumping out hamburgers at 100 mile an hour. And the auditorium had a showroom similar to what it is today. They had a poker machine room upstairs and a bar upstairs as well. Actually, my first shift was in the poker machine room upstairs. They had about 20-25 machines up there.
More land was acquired with an investment of a meagre $750,000. Construction got underway, and the following year we were able to add a spacious auditorium, a dining room, and what could be seen as our first attempt at a themed area, a chess bar, with tabletop chessboards giving the bar its name. And Stage 3 was opened in November 1969.
There was a shopping centre down the back called Sydney Wide.
People were a bit offside with us and says, you're mad. Why would you spend money there? Sydney Wide's going to gobble you up.
Managing director came up and said, well, we'll eventually buy you out. And we said, no, we'll buy you.
We purchased the land and building of Sydney Wide stores for $900,000 with a proviso that they would lease it back from us for $100,000 a year for 10 years.
Sydney Wide became our tenants.
But of course, he went broke before the 10 years was up.
So that was the story there, yeah. They're gone and we're still here.
The club did acquire any property that became available. We scraped up enough money to get a deposit and eventually purchase it.
When we had our 21st birthday party, we decided that we had a week's celebration. But the climax to it, the real grand part of it, was on the last day. We sold everything in 1958 prices. Now that means everyone was getting a midi for 10 cents. And you should have seen the conduct of the members that day. The place was packed. It was only open to members. And the members, they just queued up in gentlemanly fashion. No pushing or shoving. To get beers are that cheap. You think, we want to get drunk quick. They were really magnificent. That made you really, really proud to be a director there.
But a major contribution from our club was our role in promoting community welfare, promoting sports fields and developing sportsmen from the grassroots up. It has paid enormous dividends.
The club was formed to sponsor sport, particularly juvenile sport. We have done from inception.
And give kids something in Bankstown to do, financially assist them to play sport, because team sport is a good level. It gets kids off the street and gives them something to do, rather than get into mischief or get into trouble. And we had a lot of international sporting people come from this club.
Sean Eady, for argument's sake, had been selected for the 2000 Olympics and someone knocked his wheels off. And now those wheels at the time were worth $10,000 for the back and front wheel. So the sports club immediately bought him 2 more wheels. Not for himself personally, he used them during the Olympics and he won a bronze medal, but they stay the property of the cycle club.
And Bobby Madden, he was one of our original employees. He was fantastic at soccer and cricket.
Luke Adams, who's on his 3rd Olympics, we send him overseas. He has to go overseas to compete. We usually work on their plane fare.
And there's many, many hundreds and hundreds of kids that would never be able to put on a football bet or a gown or anything like that, to play their sport, netball, baseball and all that sort of thing, unless it was from the sports club.
For the Olympic Games in Athens, we sent 2 athletes over there and we gave them $6,000 each. toward their campaign.
There is an honour board upstairs that everybody that has been a member of the club who represented their country is on that honour board. All those people who came from Bankstown and represented in the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games, or represented Australia in rugby league, rugby union, or any sports that the nation plays.
We nurtured the young in a wide range of sports. You might recognise many of them for their outstanding contribution to the sport of their choice.
As we start to expand, which you've got to survive, we still have that sporting group. The sporting group still come here, so you can still come to this club and still know someone. You walk in because it's someone you played tennis with, or the tennis club, or the fishing club, or whatever. I doubt if we could find any of our sporting members that would come here that don't know where to go to meet someone that they used to either play sport with or watch.
The 2000 Olympics brought new opportunities. We were entrusted with managing the Dunk Grey Velodrome. What was the USA's media centre during the Olympics is now the Handlebar Tavern. Managed by Bankstown Sports, and today is a popular meeting place for locals.
Now, obviously our large sporting event venue is the Olympic Velodrome. We signed a 21-year lease in 1999, and from that time we've run a world-class event every year. Last year was the first year that we ran the World Masters cycling event, which previously had been held at Manchester for the previous 8 years. We're attracting about 430 competitors to that event, which is a record, and certainly we'll continue to run world-class events in that venue. But through our other sports, such as the Bankstown Cricket Oval, just located around the corner from the club, we also host world-class events for that venue. A lot of the cricketers will stay in our hotel and patronise our club. Earlier this year we had a trial match, Sri Lanka versus Bankstown, and that was a fantastic event, particularly for the local community. It's not often that a local community come and see a world-class team such as Sri Lanka, and they really appreciated that event.
They really love their sporting heroes out Bankstown way. Just ask Steve and Mark Waugh.
Councillor David Blake made a recommendation or proposal to council that we redevelop this ground, that we're getting very old and very tired.
Stephen and Mark Waugh are without doubt the club's most famous sons. It is fitting that the club's new pavilion at Bankstown Oval should be named after them. It's also fitting that this wonderful grandstand is being named after a man who has contributed so much to sport in your local community, Kevin McCormick. Congratulations, Kevin, on having your achievements immortalised here today. Well done.
Probably one of the greatest honours I've had in the whole years I was associated with the club.
Now, there's so many people that have given a lot to cricket in Bankstown that have given more than Mark himself have ever given to cricket, so I think you've got to give something back.
John Mackay thought his idea was a sporting club should have sporting memorabilia around the place.
The last count we had 450 pieces of memorabilia. Don Bradman bats and the War Brothers, we got 3D dimensions of those. Sporting club, we go to charity day, so we'd buy some memorabilia there which was suitable to the club.
We rotate the display around the sports bar area constantly, so people aren't coming in and looking at the same things all the time.
We've got just about every rugby league, Australian team, New South Wales, Queensland team, all autographed. Everything he gets, if it's not autographed, and a day will come when they'll be in the club, because we have a big sports night here every November, and we have either an Olympian or a first grade cricketer as our sports presenter, and he'll get them to sign it.
Les Darcy, there's a collage there of Les Darcy. His rounds are up to 24 rounds, not like today they go 10 rounds.
It's great to bring people here that have never been here before to show them some of the displays.
As well as our sporting endeavours, we've always had entertainment at our club. Starting with a tiny bandstand and a solitary artist on Saturday nights, to our fine auditorium that has been host to some great talent from Australia and abroad.
Cause he's my blonde-headed stumpy real gun surfer boy, yeah, 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 yeah. Bye, 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 baby, goodbye.
The demographics of Bankstown are changing dramatically and quickly as we speak. I see that our offering here has got to be, you're going to be safe and secure and you're going to have a good time, you're going to enjoy yourself, and you'll be confident in knowing that the results of all that are going to go and support local community sport, junior sport, local community projects. And I think our members appreciate that.
The government did change that you've got to give a certain amount of profit to the community, but this club exceeds it.
Under government legislation, all the larger clubs have to invest 1.5% of total gaming revenue in community service. We felt we needed to do better and have contributed, on average, over 4% annually to the cause. Between 1985 and 2008, this has amounted to over $27 million.
And we first started, of course, the local hospital. Always, hospitals, as you know, always need money, and that was probably one of the first charities.
That if you were in an accident in Bankstown area and went to Bankstown Hospital, if you didn't wake up attached to a machine donated by Bankstown Sports Club, it'd be some other club in the area.
When we first started, one of the earliest memories, we always contributed to what was called a senior citizen centre, which was where we used to be the old Bankstown ambulance station. That closed down and we converted that into a senior citizen centre. People would come in there and have a meal.
We've been involved with the Bankstown City Aged Care Facility for many, many years now. Over those years, we've contributed well over $1.5 million in direct funding.
We've had a representative on the board. I was on the board for over 20 years. We had a hostel in each ward and then built a nursing home. And the nursing home at the present moment is state of the art.
We hold bingo 2 days a week. We have trivia, morning melodies. A lot of our daily entertainment particularly is revolved around our elderly patrons.
And if you look around Bankstown, see the number of frail persons' homes now, something like 4 or 5, and this club supports them right to the hilt. And when you see the big one out at George's Hall, that's probably the best in Australia. It is magnificent. And the Bankstown Sports name is prominently displayed because we put so much money into it. I keep going to say they, but it's we, the club members. Eh? I still put a bob in the poke machine. But no, that's the beauty of the club. It helps everybody.
Aged care is an important part of our demographic here, and certainly the aged care facility is something that we'll be continuing on as we can to provide for. We are involved with Bankstown City Council in many of the initiatives that they do throughout the years.
1995 was the centenary of Bankstown, and 200 years since Bass and Flinders with the boy William Martin explored the Georges River in a tiny skiff for Tom Thumb. They stopped at a place that was to be known as Bankstown. The highlight of our centenary celebrations was our sponsorship of a recreation of Bass and Flinders' trip on the river in an exact replica of the Tom Thumb. On Australia Day that year, it was rowed all the way into Botany Bay and onto Garrison Point, where 50,000 proud Bankstonians celebrated the occasion.
What a historic occasion when we can reenact that voyage in October 1795.
And we've always had a good relationship with Council, with the local members of Parliament. Of course, Clubs New South Wales have helped the club a lot, and we contribute to charities that they support. Like the Institute of Sport, they give $1 million a year to that organisation. We also contribute to it.
Well, last week we officially opened an outdoor covered learning area in Bankstown Grammar School. We funded that project for $42,000 to provide a covered area for kids to learn. It really doesn't matter now if it's raining or it's hot, and they're the sort of little things that the club does throughout the year for many schools in the area.
We provide rooms for many community groups, hospitals, Toastmasters, Lions Club, View Clubs, they're using our facilities on a weekly basis, and we're always open. The club's very generous in that respect.
We've been involved with Father Chris Riley for many years now. They hold our annual conference here. The club contributes and provides the venue for the 3 days as part of our sponsorship. Father Chris Riley does great things with youth in Australia, and certainly we're keen and will continue to be involved with them.
Making all this a reality were our people. From the first two in 1959 to our present staff of over 450, most of whom live in Bankstown. They are the heartbeat of a very successful operation. They have brought the multicultural flavour of Bankstown to our club. The cuisine, the culture, the languages and the colour.
Quite a percentage of our staff are Asian. We've got people from South America, Europe, Poland, Macedonia, all those sort of countries. We've got Canadians, we've got Islanders, New Zealand, all over the world. We had to do it for a bit of a case we had going on a little while ago, and we just counted up the countries, and I think there was something like 30 countries.
We had 2 employees. Now we've got 450, so we've certainly grown.
But also in that the club's got a lot of long-time employees, over 20, some over 30 years.
I was there for 37 years, and I would say it was the best time of my life. It wasn't always easy. I had my ups and my downs, but I learned so much.
I started here in 1972. I worked casual for a year and a half and then decided to come in full time.
And as for the staff, well, we're still having our parties.
My mother brought me here in November 1969. She knew Bob Madden, who was the bar manager at the time and the club's first employee. He employed me. I've been here ever since, so I've been here for 38 odd years.
I employed the system manager that's working here now, so you've got memories of that.
Certainly my first impressions of the club was initially that it was just a normal club, but it didn't take long to realise that there was more to it. It had a fantastic culture among patrons as well as staff.
I thought that the place had incredible potential.
We had a lot of people from other clubs coming through to see how to do it, but by the time they learn how to do it, we've got something else.
John Mackay, with a new board at the time, received approval to do some renovations.
Looking for ideas, he came round, knocked on our door, interviewed one of our guys, didn't quite click.
So knocked on the door again, met the second person, and that person was Greg Howard.
And so we started working together.
We chose Payne and Dixon, and we've never regretted it since.
John and I sat down back in late 70s, decided that we wanted to map out the plan for the future.
I always aspired to have the club have a 5-star international hotel standard, and that's where it evolved from.
Clubs in those days were boxy clubs, just separate rooms, and there was no flow, no windows. You wouldn't know what time of day it was. We wanted to change all that. We took that to the board. The board had their own ideas and comments on it, and then they backed us.
That vision was taken up and run with by successive boards and management, and it's gone well and it's worked.
This area here was the back wall of the club, and the initial project was to reorganise the internal spaces so they became more efficient. The poker machine lounge was here with the mixed lounge, moving through to the sidewalk cafe with its coffee shop and so on through there.
Sidewalk cafe and the coffee shop was just tremendous because we cooked everything downstairs, which meant that when they walked into the club, you could smell the food and, just makes you hungry before you go and have a beer.
When the bistro wasn't in use, we pulled blinds down over in front of the servery and they were painted up as shop fronts, and it really set a nice scene. And funnily enough, it introduced theming to the club.
The first club to do a theme, and a lot of people said it wouldn't work.
Something that John Mackay wanted to introduce, and it was something that was not in any other club, not in a lot of hotels, and that was a standalone coffee shop.
Say if a family came in and the husband wanted to go and have his beer, he could go and have his beer, and the wife and the children could relax in the coffee shop, which they did, and we used to stay open till 12 o'clock. You could get anything there at any time. It didn't matter if you were late to get something at the bistro, you could always pick it up at the coffee shop. And I think we used to go through about 7 pavlovas a night.
If you go into any club these days, they all have a coffee shop. What we're looking at now is the first extension that we did to the club. Just behind the escalators there, that was the back wall of the club. And the board decided that they want to introduce light into the club. So instead of a skylight or 2, we made one huge skylight, which was the whole roof. We went to Singapore to research the variety of space frames because they had more than anywhere else in the world. And the space frame is what we brought back with us and created an ambiance that was second to none.
The George Bass Lounge was something that was really needed. At that time we didn't have much lounge space.
This area up here was in actual fact the outside of the club after the first extension.
The new extensions were officially opened by local MP, the Honourable Doug Shedden. Not long after, work began on a further expansion of the George Bass Lounge to nearly double its size.
We created a lounge, and as you can see we have windows all the way right around, high ceilings. The other thing in this area, getting rid of plastic chairs and laminate tables. If you look around into this room, you'll see cane furniture, leather furniture and fabric.
Not long after I started that opened, and certainly the patrons really appreciated that extra lounge space. Pretty much after that though, it was non-stop. Lots of renovations, lots of little renovations which sort of flowed on from one another. That involved the sports bar, the tab, the restaurants, the gaming area, coffee shops, function rooms, and all of those areas were areas that the club needed at the time to expand.
The rainforest and all of the theming that you see on this side of the club came out of a tour that we did to the States. There was John Mackay and myself, Kevin McCormick, who was the president, and Col Glosier, who was vice president.
We certainly have got ideas from other clubs as well and other casinos, and that's the way it works, and I think we're all here to help each other.
What we pulled out of Vegas essentially was the rainforest. There was a number of the casinos there had touched on the rainforest. We liked that. We thought that this would make a beautiful central point. Because of its enormity and the size of floor area that it took up, we've made it hollow. So that the floor space inside is being used for plant, filtration, storage areas. So we haven't lost that floor space.
And it's still maintained. We have a lady that goes around permanently here that touches up everything around the place so as it looks as though it was just built today. Just a bit like the Harbour Bridge, and she's never stopped. You'll see her today, she'll be walking around.
We went to Universal Studios. John Mackay's a bit of a train buff. And one of the things that we did see there was Victoria Street Station, which is a restaurant, heavily railway themed. And when John saw that, he decided he must have one of those.
Going back in the old days, it was number 8 Greenfield Parade, Bankstown it was called. That's why we've named our Greenfield Station.
We've got 2 levels of dining in there. We've got fine dining in platform 1, which is 2 very, very smart railway carriages. And then we have an open plan area, which is more a bistro. To get some longevity into the theming, we needed to make it as real as it could possibly be.
Memories that I will always take with me is the opening of Greenfield Station, our foyer, our piano bar. It was a massive renovation. Basically, it was duplicating the size of the club at that time. And only days before we opened it to the public, I never forget walking through the place and realising that this place hasn't been walked by patrons.
The opening of the Greenfield Bistro area, that was just a wonderful night. We were all heavily involved in the preparation of that and on the night itself. That was opened by Paul Keating.
Greenfield Station holds a lot of happy memories.
And it was something that was just amazing and again, something that I'll never experience again.
It was all so big and bold and yet tasteful and acceptable, with a lot of lightness and brightness not seen in Sydney clubs before. One of Bankstown's favourite sons, Paul Keating, was in our club for some of his most memorable moments, like watching the election results unfold when he was elected Prime Minister.
Whether you support Labor or Liberal, I think it was, for someone as young as I was at that time, it was fascinating to have a federal election basically happening around you.
And he was there to inaugurate some of our most ambitious projects, like the Frail Age Respite Care Centre and several stages of our club's growth. In 1992, Doug Shedden and Paul Keating were both bestowed with life membership of the club.
After Greenfield Station, we progressed on to the Asian restaurant, which is the Sizzling Court, and it's based all about a village in Thailand and quite a few nice Thai features. And to pull that together, we needed to introduce what we call our Yellow Brick Road. It brings people in, through and around the club so they can be exposed to all the different facilities the club's got. It also connects to our upper levels. On our first level up, we have the function facilities, and it's split over 2 levels. And what we've done here is to encompass that all within the space of the ground floor. So that when you come out of that function facility, you're now looking back down into the main ground floor area. It's one of the unique features, and being under the glass roof brings in a lot of light and really creates a nice atmosphere.
In 1998, we planned for growth by amalgamating with Borkham Hill Sports Club, which had a charter similar to our own, like community service and encouraging sport, particularly for juniors. This was a club that had been around for 25 years, so it was important for the members and staff to understand that we were there for the long haul, not just to add a coat of paint and a new name.
We recently opened $9 million worth of renovations. Those renovations have been received by the local patrons up there very well. The patronage has been great, and we have a really good first-class boutique club in a fantastic area.
In 1983, we amalgamated with the Yagoona Bowling Club, which we closed in 2000. So to give members a current bowling facility, July 2008 saw an amalgamation with the Bankstown City Bowling and Recreational Club, being the oldest registered club in the district, which was founded in 1929. To service the Olympic officials who had chosen Bankstown as their headquarters for Sydney 2000, the club board took a bold decision to build an 8-storey, 108-room, multi-million-dollar hotel that was to blend in with the existing premises. It would serve to host sports teams and conference delegates. An agreement was reached with the Southern Pacific Hotel Corporation to fund and manage the hotel under the Travelodge badge. 2 glass double lifts carry guests from the club foyer directly to each floor, with a spectacular view of the rainforest and the club below. It was the kind of innovative thinking that led to the creation of La Piazza.
We used to go to Mario's restaurant, El Bucco at Burwood.
They saw that I was running a successful restaurant and asked me if I was interested in opening an Italian restaurant inside their club.
Did our studies. Have a look at it now. How good's this?
We really wanted to appeal to the broader section of the Italian community, a generic Italian village.
It's taken 5 years to put together.
And on August 31st, 2007,
This is another milestone in the history of the Bankstown Sports Club.
La Piazza was opened by the New South Wales Premier, the Honourable Maurice Yemmer.
And to Mario and his team, congratulations on what you've done here with the precinct. John, all of your team, the board of directors, the management here at Bankstown Sports Club. You're well set up, not just to survive, but to thrive into the future. And I can think of, in closing, in no better way than to welcome the second half century of this club's future than a fantastic, innovative development. It gives me great pleasure to officially declare La Piazza open.
La Piazza is a meeting place, a place where you can sit and sip on an espresso coffee, enjoy a refreshing gelato, have an authentic wood-fire pizza, or sit in Stuzzichino Ristorante and enjoy some fine seafood, Italian tapas, or perhaps a bowl of pasta. So viva Italia and enjoy your Italian experience at La Piazza. Thank you.
I don't know what's going to happen next at this club. The contribution that all of you people make to this community is extraordinary. I don't know how many functions a year I host here, MC here, and there's never a charge. There's always someone raising money for somebody.
That's the beauty of the club. It helps everybody.
It's recognised through the community for its contribution to different organisations.
Who else gives $2 million away a year? Not many clubs.
There's a guarantee if you rock up here, you're going to be looked after, you'll be safe, you're secure, your car will be safe, secure, you'll have a good time. We're completing our 1,200 spot car park underneath.
Undercover, with their own security, it's a safe place to be.
Whatever you leave behind will be out there looking after kids playing sport, which has got to be all good for the social structure of the area.
Bankstown Sports is proud to be part of a very vibrant industry. 1,500 clubs with 5.5 million members, contributing $5.4 billion to the economy and over $1.1 billion to support community services all over the state. Bankstown Sports has contributed significantly and consistently each year. We started with 223 members. Today we have 40,000 members and we're still growing.
This particular club, as most of them were frequented by the locals. The locals used to live 200 metres, 100 metres, a mile away, whatever, and they'd walk down the road to the club Thursday, Friday night, have a few beers, game of darts, play the wangers for an hour, have a feed, wander off back home. We've changed with the demographics in that we're still attracting those types of people, but they're not coming within 200 metres anymore. They're coming from 5 kilometres away, 10 kilometres away, because We're more of a destination.
So to keep one step ahead, we have to really strive to improve what we're doing correctly at the moment.
I think basically we'll just continue to do what we do pretty well, and that is look after junior sport and local community projects. Hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that.
It's tough out there at the moment with clubs, with increased taxes and changes to legislation.
So we're looking for areas of getting income rather than relying on gaming.
It's extremely important to diversify.
We're currently building a 2,500 seat conference level above the Italian.
I think we're going to become a major player. Bankstown Sports Club is going to be a major player in the conferencing and convention industry.
The clubs have to offer some sort of a different branding. We have to have a little bit of uniqueness. We need to achieve nothing but the best for our members.
Well, we're currently talking to the hotel operators about another 4 stories, another 120 rooms on top. It's currently experiencing, and has been for the past 4 months, 100% occupancy. So we're hoping that they'll go ahead with that extra 120 rooms.
And certainly that is part of our master plan. We really need those rooms as part of our product mix within the club.
We are progressing all the time. We never stop thinking ahead.
One of our members, Quinton, designed the club logo when he was just 18. Can you imagine his frustration? He couldn't even enter the club to see his handiwork because of his tender age. But that early effort served us well for the past 49 years. But in these increasingly competitive times, branding is important, and in our 50th year, we unveiled a new corporate look for Bankstown Sports.
The branding is more than just the logo, it's the colour scheme, it's our corporate colours. It's important that people see us in the community as new, refreshing and vibrant. Generally speaking, the feedback has been fantastic.
It's been a long journey with many memorable landmarks, and there are sure to be many more. The club you see today has been a long time in the making by many highly committed people. And as former President Harold Neville once said, we owe a debt of thanks to those pioneers who had the vision to see the need for this club. As the old saying goes, when you drink from a well, remember those who dug the hole.
No, they've been great boards. They've been steady, they've been cohesive, they've been forward-thinking, all part of the vision, and they've appreciated it and they continue to.
Because of our positive approach with the board, the club will succeed.
Bankstown Sports Club is my club. That's the club I'm proudest of.
I bring a lot of people in here to have a meal. That number 1 platform over there, I've had people in there, they say they've been on the Orient Express, and that is equal. In class, quality of food, the decor leaves second to none.
I love people, I love change, and I think that's why I love this club so much, because it's changing all the time.
So we've got waiters that have worked all over Sydney as Italian waiters, and they love working here because to them it's a totally different atmosphere than what they've ever worked in.
I come to work and I don't know what to expect. Every day it's something different, somebody different.
My son is in the medical profession, and he runs a seminar here, and they come from Hong Kong and England, everywhere, to here, and they cannot believe that they can have a medical seminar here to walk out and see, and they stay at the motel. What a great opportunity that is. They come out and see just jungle.
What excites me and makes me very proud of the club is the success of the club. We've always gone ahead, we haven't stood still.
Yeah, I think the industry sees Bankstown Sports as a quiet achiever, and I think they see John Mackay as a very loyal and efficient leader.
The club was formed to support junior sport in the local government area and for community support, and it continues 50 years later.
Imagine where we've come from and where we're headed. Bankstown Sports, your club, your destination, celebrating 50 years serving the community.